What is up, everybody? Welcome in to the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Landon Raby. With me, Dylan Taylor. We got Deuce Thomas in the background helping us produce things as well. Tennessee sweeps another one. Non-conference is officially over on the weekends, so we are getting into the heat of SEC play, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you are. I know we love a lot of home runs and run rules and grand slams and all that, and hopefully that stuff keeps coming. But I'm ready for hard nosed SEC baseball. I'm ready to have like guys come into Lindsey Nelson that are going to play at the next level in a different uniform. I'm ready for like on a Sunday, we don't have to pitch everybody for a different batter. I'm ready for that pitching change and everything like that to be over with, and your lineup gets set, and that's who we're rolling with. Um, and I'm just ready to compete. I think Tennessee's got a really good baseball team this year. No matter what LSU and Texas A&M and Arkansas fans have to say about it, Tennessee is good. My biggest takeaway from this weekend, I think, is Tennessee has dominated the non-conference. They've done it hitting a lot of home runs. They've stolen bases. They've gotten a lot of hits. They've done well with two outs. They've worked counts. They've, you know, drawn walks. They have picked people off. You saw that yesterday's game on Sunday. It's just everything that has kind of come together for this team, and they haven't really faced too much adversity. So, I mean, maybe that's something to kind of keep an eye on when they do face adversity. Has this team respond? But I think if I'd rather them not face adversity than go through what Vanderbilt and Texas A&M has gone through and lost games in the non-conference that they should never lose.
Yeah.
So my biggest takeaway is Tennessee is dominant, and I mean it's just same old that we've talked about for weeks. They're pitching really well. They gave up 3 total runs this whole weekend. They had the run rules going. Liam Doyle was still good, and those freshmen just keep raking. And so I'm excited to see kind of where everything's at. What was kind of your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
But yeah, as the weather gets nicer, we got daylight savings, longer days now. Yeah, I'm ready for the baseball to start. It started already. I mean, yeah, you've had a couple, you know, decent, decently big schools, decently big teams, but still, like you said, not really tested yet to any extent.
True.
So I'm ready for SEC play. It's nice to be able to see all the pieces, and to an extent, I don't think we're going to stop seeing the same amount of pieces we've seen. But that's what I was thinking earlier today, or during yesterday's game. Like you still don't know what your lineup is yet, and it's a good thing because I mean you haven't had to figure it out yet. But at the same time, I'm kind of ready to see who settles into every role. But the more I see Manny Marin, Dalton Bargo, and Stone Lawless this weekend, I don't. How do you count them out yet? Saying, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with Levi Clark continues to be one of the most impressive freshmen I've probably ever seen. So at this point, how do you sit him either? So yeah, that was my main takeaway. Like I'm ready for the real ball to start to see who takes the spots. But at this point, like, do you even need anybody to take a spot right now? Because the platoon strategy of you go hit a bomb, then hey, you go hit a bases clear and double. Okay, well, you go hit a bomb. Like, yeah, it seems to be working right now. So, I mean, I'm ready to see who steps up and takes the spots, but also at the same time, I'm not quite ready to give up on seeing 7 different guys hit a bomb every game.
Yeah. It's definitely fun to watch, and you've kind of seen like your top, I guess, 6 guys. Like those guys are going to be in there every day. Like it's going to be Curley, it's going to be Keelan, Fisher, Clark, Inslee, Chapman. And then you have those other spots that you just like. I mean, Abernathy looks like he's going to be there because he gives you so much. It's just a different type of player than, you don't have anybody like him. But also Dalton Bargo came in this weekend and is like, hey, don't forget about me. Chris Newstrom said, "Hey, don't forget about me," and then Stone Lawless is the same thing. He's like, "Hey, this is a open competition at catcher." Because right now, like it stinks for Cannon Peoples, but he's just not hitting the ball consistent enough for it not to be an open competition. Like he's probably your guy if he was hitting 350 right now, but he's hitting like 240. So and Stone Lawless hit two 400-foot bombs today and threw a guy out at second. He looked. I mean, he looks like he can handle the staff, and if that's the case, I think there is an open competition. Maybe against West Georgia, you're like, hey, each of y'all get 2 at bats, and whoever does the best, like that's going to be our starter Friday night against Florida.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Cannon last week, and it's been a matter of a week, and not really by any means to give up on Cannon, but I think my opinion is flipped in a week, and it's still, it's maybe that's not fair because like we opened the show talking about, it's still not conference play yet. So you got to see who does it against the big dogs. But at the same time, I think my opinion's flipped where I think Stone Lawless is head and shoulders the better catcher. So then it comes down to who's got the bat, and I mean, right now it's Stone Lawless too. I mean, that throw that
Yeah.
you mentioned he made the second was the throw in itself was impressive. The transfer from his glove 2 foot from his head to the left side on a little bit of a wild pitch there to get it out that quick and that accurate. I mean, I'm not at this point. I'm not counting Levi Clark as a catcher anymore. I'm just counting him as, hey, step in the box and hit a home run. I don't know what
Levi
position
Clark
that
plays
is.
hitter. That's what he plays.
Yeah, he is. So I guess he's your DH. But at this point, I don't even that. It seems disrespectful to call him that because
I mean, wherever you need it. If you need him to play shortstop, I don't care if he can't play shortstop. He's going to be in your lineup somewhere.
Yeah, at this point, don't make him catch. Like literally, just tell him, just hey, focus on hitting this year. We don't need you in the field anywhere because it looks like you don't. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's maybe long term, it's not best for his development because I mean, you don't want to go into a MLB draft as just a designated hitter. It's there's more value in it than there's ever been nowadays. But I mean, it's still you want to have something with the glove. But at the same time, if he leaves here with 150 bombs in his career, I think if I'm an MLB GM, I think I'd be okay with
It'll play.
yeah, we can put you in right field and maybe you'll catch every other ball, but if you're hitting bombs, that doesn't really matter.
Who
But
cares?
yeah, back to my point, like I think Stone Lawless is your catcher right now, and it kind of sucks because you can't even really put Cannon at DH to help him find it because how do you justify sitting Clark out? So
Yeah.
my opinion's kind of changed in a week. Again, it's not conference play, but that's we've talked about it before. That just shows how quick you can get your spot taken. Now he can always get it back, but it's I know where I'd put my money right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nowhere to put all these guys, and that's the issue. And I guess if you're a head coach, you'd rather this than anything else. Like this is a good problem to have. But I know we're gonna probably talk about this earlier, so we can just go ahead and talk about it. But Asuna, if he was gonna be eligible, which I guess he's not, but that would just throw another because he's a right-handed bat that can only play first base or DH. And you're trying to play a Manny Marin at third base because he's playing well. So you move Fisher over to first. You're not moving Fisher out of the lineup. So would Asuna even really crack this lineup? I don't know. Maybe he has 10 bombs up to this point, and we're thinking like, okay, well, you have to play him at first and move Fisher to third, and sorry, Manny Marin. But I think that would just be another problem with Tennessee's depth right now, just having another guy that can only play a limited position and DH. I think I don't know if this when they brought Asuna to this program, I don't know if they thought Levi Clark was going to be as good as he's been so quickly.
No, and that I brought it up last week. I mean that I don't want to turn this into bashing Cannon Peoples because we know how talented he can be, and they're going to need him at some point this year. But it
Yeah.
shows the two ends of the spectrum. Like it, having that depth behind you, like it's only a matter of time if you're not producing. And at this point, like I don't know where you justify putting Ozuna in at. Like, I mean, you're going to take him away from probably one of the best power hitters in the SEC at first base with Fisher. I don't think so. Maybe you move Fisher to third for a few games if you can get Ozuna. I mean, at this point, like we'll just have to see when he's eligible. I don't have a clue as to how
Yeah.
any of that. I don't think they have any clue as to how that works. The NCAA I'm talking about, but
You probably expect
that's
him not to be, I guess, and then if you get
right,
him back, then it's
right. At this
gravy at
point,
that point.
you can't count on anything. And again,
Mhm.
it's frustrating for Peebles in one aspect because he is kind of just getting outplayed right now. But it's even more frustrating, like I mentioned last week. I mean, Ozuna can just be a cheerleader right now and just watch his spot dwindle away further every week. So yeah, you feel for him, and at this point, you just hope maybe he can produce at some point down the line and have something to put on tape, and then I mean, injuries do happen in this game, not quite as much as other sports, but I mean that
Yeah.
you don't want to wish for that, but that's kind of what he's got to wish for at this point if he can get eligible.
Yeah, and we'll see. Like, I mean, there's Drew Beam went through it his freshman year. Like, there's guys that have you kind of hit a wall a little bit when it comes to SEC play, and you just want to make sure that those guys can. And that's why you can't just have like Cannon Peebles and Dalton Bargo. You can't just set them on the bench and be like, "Hey, stay there," because a freshman like going to the SEC, like it is a different game. And if you're not able to kind of keep up with it, or the numbers drop, or you kind of lose some confidence, you're going to need some veteran guys in there to come in and play. So I think it's good to kind of keep their at bats up right now. But yeah, like at this point, Stone Lawless has taken that catcher spot and ran with it. And until he gives you something like he goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, I think he remains in the lineup. And maybe Cannon Peoples will catch, like maybe they'll have him do like a midweek and maybe Sunday or something like that. Maybe they do kind of that, because like a catcher is a different position where you don't want to play that guy at catcher every single day, because then you just wear him out. But I think for now, like Friday night, I go with Stone Lawless until he proves otherwise that he can't handle it.
Yeah, I mean Peebles as the clear second in the pecking order right now at catcher. Like he's still gonna be guaranteed more playing time than the second player at a lot of other positions, just from like you said, the nature of that position. Like he's gonna have to play. So he at least has some fallback there to where like he's gonna have every opportunity to get hot again. And that's only gonna help because I know I wouldn't bet on this right now, but at some point you'd have to think Levi Clark is going to slow down. He can't hit a home run every at bat, which seems like he's doing right now. So,
And if
that,
he's not going to be hitting fifth anymore. He's going to be hitting third.
yeah, I mean, and it's that only helps somebody like Peebles too, because when that comes, like I know Vitello's not going to have a short leash, so that's not really what I'm saying, but it helps just in the batting order perspective to
Yeah.
when Clark does hit that wall, you may have to move around a little bit and say, hey, like everybody else is driving in runs right now. We may need to move somebody else there to drive in more runs, and that's another opportunity for Cannon to slide in there if he can get hot. I mean, we've seen him do it, so
Mm-hmm.
it it's tough for him right now, but there are going to be slumps coming at some point. It's just the nature of it. So he's going to have to time it up with somebody else's slump, and yeah, you're going to need him at some point, so he can't fade.
Yeah. So what do you do at third base? Or are you rolling with Manny Marin and having Fisher play first?
I think Marin should get the first crack at it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would see, which I mean that I would long term projection wise, I think Dean Curley's a third baseman at the next level, but he's still a sophomore. So like you ask anybody their opinion, it's going to be different on when he should make the move to third because I don't think at his size, I don't think he sticks at shortstop for his entire career. He may at Tennessee, but if if it's not rolling with Marin at third, at some point do you consider Curley to third? And you've got several middle infield options there. Now, the bat would take a hit, in my opinion, there because out of those young guys, if you're asking me Marin or Antigua right now, I'd take Marin in the box every time. Now we haven't seen
100%.
much of
Yeah.
Antigua, but I mean it's going to depend what kind of game you want to play too. Because if you're going glove wise, I mean Antigua's sitting over there that he's a wizard in what we've seen from him so far. So I thinking MLB perspective, you wonder about the move of Curley to third base, but I think it'd be crazy to do that right now. So yeah, Marin at third's probably unless something happens with Osuna that we're not seeing in the near future, which that in and of itself would take a couple weeks to for him to probably get used to it, get going. I think that's your best option right now.
Yeah, and with Dean Curley, like him being a draft eligible sophomore, like you probably don't see that move. I mean, even
Right.
though it's kind of like an A-Rod played shortstop his entire career until he was a Yankee, then he played third base. It's not like it's a detrimental position change.
No.
If you can play short, you can play third. Like, I mean, that's
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that's being real. So I think with him being a draft eligible sophomore, you probably don't see him make that move. And I like Marin at third. I thought he made a good play on Sunday. I thought
Yep.
he handles his bat a lot better than I would think a guy at his size could handle it. I mean, he's hitting home runs and hitting it well. He hit a grand slam the other night to end the game. So yeah, I like Marin at third. I think it would be interesting because it's kind of like the last three spots are, do you go Fisher at third or Fisher at first? Like which one? He's going to play one of them. If you go Fisher at third, then you're probably playing Bargo at first and Abernathy in left. If not, then you go Fisher at first, Manny at third, or you go Fisher at third, you go Bargo at first, Abernathy in left, or you go Clark at first, Abernathy or Bargo in left, Abernathy DH, or vice versa, DH one of those guys. I don't know. It's like, well, what does Tennessee want out of those kind of last three spots there? Kind of move people around. Are you wanting? Would you rather Bargo or Marin? Because like that seems like that is the
Right.
where it's going, or Bargo or Abernathy. Because I mean, Bargo could probably play left field too.
Right now, I think their biggest question is Bargo and Marin, and but
And
then
they
yeah,
both
what do
look
you
really good this weekend, so that's really
right? And
hard.
then you're putting Fisher. Like, what do you do with Fisher then? You can't move him to DH while Levi Clark's in like this. So
Yeah,
it Dalton Bargo is kind of the chess piece of this team, where it's he offers the lefty perspective that Marin doesn't. So, or not to that same quality at least. I yeah, Dalton Bargo, that it comes back to that quote, was it first week or second week, where it was so many guys have a right to not even complain. That's not really what he said, but come up and say like, "Hey, I should be playing more." I gave my perspective of, I would always tend to stick with the younger guy, and it's paid off with Levi Clark so far.
hmm
But you got a guy like Bargo that can play everywhere like that, and you're just kind of, if you're me right now, you're just kind of telling him like, just keep producing when we put you in there, and then you hope at some point like you get a tough pitcher in the SEC tournament or in the first round of the postseason, something like that, and you need Bargo to step in to where, hey, Marin's eyes may get a little bit big. Now, even in that, I'm contradicting myself because none of these young guys, when they step in, they look like cold blooded killers. They look like nothing affects them right now. So
hmm
it's not conference play. It's not the big stage yet, but it, the best case scenario for some guys is some other guys having their worst case scenario. And for a coach,
Yeah.
that's your dream, but it's just the nature of it. Like, yeah, Bargo's your chess piece at this point. He can play left. He can play third. I don't think you need him at catcher at any point, barring something catastrophic. Play first.
hmm
I'm very interested to see what happens with him over the course of the year because I feel like he's going to produce in several different spots.
Well, I thought he was dead man walking. I thought, like, I mean,
Yeah, me
these
too.
freshmen are kind of taking over, and like and then he plays this weekend, and he's probably Tennessee's best hitter overall. So I don't really know what you do. I do think it's great to have him because at some point, if that a Manny Marin or a Jay Abernathy, like it just isn't clicking in SEC play, like you have a guy that has been there, done that, that can step in and produce for you. And having Dalton Bargo at 8th or 9th in your lineup that's a cheat code. I mean, I think there's a lot of SEC programs that would love to have a Dalton Bargo bat 8th or 9th in their lineup.
Is there a starter on Tennessee's roster right now that I mean, it's the saying of, could start for this many. Like, if you look at the top 4 teams in the SEC, I think every one of Tennessee's starters is a starter there as well. Like, I can't think of
Mm.
anybody where it's like, oh, I may take, you know, second base from Florida. I may take, center field from Arkansas. Like, I can't think of anything glaring like that where I just, at this point, where I'd be like, yeah, I'd make that trade. I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, maybe when I get to, they're probably the I don't know. I mean, the way Tennessee's hitting, I
Plus,
don't.
like, I mean,
I mean,
Grahovic at A and
would a
M.
Ike Irish maybe play catcher at Tennessee? Maybe would a LeBron play at shortstop? You move Dean Curley over to third, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what you would do, but yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches for Tennessee for sure within the lineup, and like we were talking about. I mean, it's going to figure itself out come SEC play. That's where you kind of separate yourself from everybody else, obviously team wise, but also in the lineup as well. Like if these freshmen keep producing, like they're going to be in the lineup because you're just setting yourself up for the future. But if they can't, then you have guys like a Cannon Peebles or a Dalton Bargo that can step in and be a guy like they were last year. So
Yeah, it's there's very few guys from a talent perspective where you'd make that trade, and even then, you like baseball players are very superstitious. So I would fall back on the part of I wouldn't do anything to change it right now. Like I wouldn't do anything to throw off the mojo, chemistry, good vibes, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
They're loaded.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy on Sunday. I was at the game, and there was one inning where Tennessee's freshman, that was Clark, Stone, Abernathy, and Marin. Levi Clark hit a 2-run home run. You had Marin have a single. Abernathy hits him in with a RBI single, and then you had Stone Lawless hit a home run. So they went 4 for 4 in that inning with, I think, 4 RBIs. I mean, just insane from, or maybe 5 RBIs, something like that. But it was insane to kind of watch them just kind of take over an inning. And I know Stone Lawless is a redshirt freshman, so I'm counting him as a freshman at this point. He gets looped in with them, even though he might be a year older, but he didn't play at all last year. So, yeah, I just think it's fun to watch these freshmen kind of take off. Because usually, like, I mean, even when Blake Burke and Christian Moore were freshmen, like, they played sparingly, but it wasn't like they weren't taking anybody's spot in the lineup. Like, yeah,
And
Blake Burke DH, and maybe throughout as we got closer to like postseason play, Blake Burke was playing a lot more, but Christian Moore wasn't playing a ton. There was points here and there where he'd play on a Sunday instead of somebody else, but I mean, you had Jarrell Ortega in front of him in 2022, so I mean, there wasn't a ton of places to put him. So that was fun to watch. Or it's been fun to watch these freshmen because it's something that we haven't really seen from a Tony Vitello program, to have these freshmen just come in, and you're already like getting all these guys from the portal. You have guys returning from a national championship run, and they just come in and act like they've been a part of this program for years.
Yeah, and those guys, Burke and Moore, like when we did sparingly see them, which I mean, it did become more as that season went along, but when you did sparingly see them, it was, I mean, I'm sure somebody could stat check it and it might overlap a little bit, but I don't know if you had the same vibe. It was like you'd see a flash from Burke, and it was like a couple games later you'd see one from Moore. It was never like the same time. It seemed like it was like one would have a flash, the other would have a flash. Now it's like they're all hitting their stride as soon as they step onto a college field now, all at the same time. Like I can't
Yeah.
think of a freshman that's come in and has been a disappointment. The stat today, those 5 guys you mentioned, those 5 guys just today, 7 for 14, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 3 walks, 2 steals. Hit 500, 4 home runs, and double-digit RBIs just today.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, number one recruiting class. I mean, you usually don't have. Usually, you're looking back and like, how is this a number one recruiting class? Like these guys didn't do anything at Tennessee, and Tennessee's had some guys where they've come in as top freshmen, like a Derek Schaefer and a God, what's that kid that went to Wake Forest? Matthew Dallas. Yeah, Matthew
Burns.
Dallas.
Thought you about to throw a shot at
Yeah,
Burns.
yeah, him too. But they came in as top freshmen and it just didn't click, and so they went somewhere else. But these like it's recruiting's been a little different over the past this year, and I think upcoming. Like Tennessee's recruiting a different type of player, and guys like that are getting to campus, whereas a couple years ago, no shot Levi Clark's or probably even Jay Abernathy is coming to campus.
It's very funny to me. Like you don't want to compare anything to Alabama, and it is just funny to me. It's not really serious, but when Alabama football, the recruiting's really, which at this point, probably illegal what they were doing. Now there's
Sure.
NIL, so you can't say
Mm-hmm.
anything about it. But that you hear the stories about the Dodge Chargers filling up the parking lot. Like that was I wonder what the Tennessee baseball equivalent is to that. Like there's so many top guys coming in now. Like what's the one thing that you see that in the parking lot, you see that in the locker room, you're like, yeah, Tennessee baseball is rolling right now. I'd be
Oh,
intrigued to know what that
it's
is.
got to be like a Ford F-150 or something, F-250,
Do
something
they
like
all
that.
have do they all have actual like mink coats now too? Like
Yeah,
it's not the
they
one that
probably should.
it's not the one the team shared. They're all custom size now.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because Nick Saban still to this day denies like any of that. I'm like, buddy, who
Yeah,
you
he just owns a car dealership because he's a
just
big
smile and walk away. You got your championships, just smile and walk away. That's all you got to do.
Shane
I
Gillis
do
call him out.
I know we've been talking about Tennessee's lineup and rightfully so, but I think Tennessee's biggest strength is something that doesn't get talked about by us, obviously, in the first 28 minutes of this podcast, and also um, the national media is Tennessee's pitching is unreal. I mean, we talk about the home runs, and the biggest argument is the sandbox, and Tennessee's got a small ballpark, and then they throw a combined no hitter on Friday night. It's like, hey, who gives a crap when no one else can hit it in here either?
Yeah. That was what, like the fourth in program history, and it's 30 minutes before we're even talking about it, just because we're in such amazement at everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the bullpen for me specifically, because like the starters, especially on Fridays, like we know what a lockdown that is now. But yeah, just I don't even know if you call it a bullpen. It's the arm barns. Yeah, that's the term you hear a lot. That's more accurate for me because I mean you can.
Mm.
It seems like they have a guy of every type. They have
Oh, 100%.
all different arm slots, all different velocities, all throw hard. Don't get me wrong, but they have a guy for every situation. There's not a situation that should come up in a baseball game where they can't go, oh, Tegan Coons, oh, Dylan Loy, oh, here. Like yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. And Tennessee hasn't had a Friday night guy dominate the way Liam Doyle has probably ever.
No.
And I know we're getting into SEC play, and like that is different. I will say that up front, but Tennessee didn't have a guy like that shoving 13 strikeouts and making it look easy against non-conference play either. And they've had some good ones. I mean, Chase Burns was good on Friday night. I thought, last year with, I know he didn't start. I know it was Stamos, and then they went to Causey, and he looked good in that. But Tennessee hasn't. Chad Dallas is the last, he started on Friday night basically every single game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tennessee, this is like I don't want to say a Paul Skeens, but that, like, he's dominating the way Paul Skeens dominated teams. Like, you knew Friday night, your bet was on when Paul Skeens was on the mound, your bet was on LSU. And Tennessee, I think, is the same way. When Liam Doyle's on the mound, your bet is against Tennessee no matter who they're facing.
He's
And it might
almost
be a 1-0
averaging.
game, but Liam Doyle is going to absolutely shove on Friday nights.
He's almost averaging striking out the side
Yeah,
at this point in
it's
the season.
crazy.
I knew I'd seen it. I had to pull it back up to remember exactly what it was because I did the math the other day on it. It was still a shock. He's pitched 20.1 innings this year and has 47 strikeouts. It's 2.3 strikeouts an inning there. Not a math guy, but I think that's good. And out of the 61 outs he has this year, 47 of them are strikeouts.
Good God.
77% of his outs are strikeouts.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I think it was Keith Law. I'm sure all the outlets have their projections. I don't know about you. I saw at least one headline where he's the number one prospect for the draft right now. And hey, here's the thing too. Like, we're wondering about, several of these guys proving it in SEC play. This guy's done it to you. He's got the SEC experience, so that makes him all the more valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And credit goes to Tennessee and Q and Frank Anderson, because yeah, he was good at Ole Miss last year. He shoved against Tennessee, but that ERA and those strikeout numbers weren't what they are at this point. Like, he's changed his body and really gotten into tip-top shape, and props to Tennessee for seeing that vision and being like, hey, this is what you can be. And he's been nothing short of fantastic so far this season.
He was a really good pitcher last year, and now he's the best pitcher in college baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that's come close to what he's done.
No,
and
it's not.
Yeah, we do have to throw the disclaimer. It's not SEC play yet, but he's done it in SEC play, and he's done it to us. So
yeah,
I think that's a pretty safe bet of what you're going to keep seeing from him.
Yeah, and then Marcus Phillips has locked down that Saturday role. I thought he pitched really well on Saturday. 5 strikeouts, 3 hits, 1 earned run, just gave up a home run. I guess St. Bonaventure had to get it out of their system. We're like, hey, we didn't get a single run. Can somebody just throw a barrel out there and let's get that over with? Just kind of break the seal a little bit. But yeah, I thought he looked really good. And that's the thing is, like, I feel like Sunday, like, you're trying to pitch as many guys as possible because Friday and Saturday are just full of Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips, and you're not really expecting for those games to go a full 9 innings, probably.
Yeah.
And so then you're just like, hey, I guess we'll try to pitch everybody on Sunday to try to get them some work in. So I think that's still TBD of who is your Sunday guy. I know Tanner Franklin got the start on Sunday, but he also pitched. I think he pitched just a 3rd inning on Friday night. So what do you kind of see? Do you think it's? I like the Tegan Coons. Like, I like Tegan Coons, and then you can go Arvidsson, and you can go Hundley, you can go Ryan Combs. I think with what Tennessee has with Franklin and Doyle, I wouldn't mess with that. And I like Phillips and Snead. And then maybe you go Ryan Combs in there to pitch an inning just to get the win. But on Sunday, I kind of like it, Tegan Coons. I like what he gave you on against Arizona. I would like to see more of it because you haven't really stretched those guys out a whole lot. So, yeah, just kind of interested to kind of see what you think about the Sunday starter.
The more I see the approach they're doing right now, the more I love it. The by committee. I maybe not necessarily everybody gets one inning.
Sure.
Like if it's a pivotal game against Florida and Coons is shoving for 3 innings, like, yeah, let him ride it out. But the good thing about it is if he does face any adversity, it's what I've said before, the amount of arms you can throw in different situations to get you right out of it. So, and to be honest, I mean, it's the talk of college athletics right now, especially football and basketball. With if you don't play young guys, they're probably going to be gone. Now we've seen it be a little bit different with the baseball program, and it's tough to leave the best program in the country. Like we talked about it with Doyle, we've seen it with Phillips. Like you're going to get developed if you stay here.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it. It's a hard sell to some guys. So with that climate changing all the time of you've got to get guys action or they're probably going to leave, that we are in the good position of you can kind of call them on their bluff and say, okay, like, hey man, if you want to transfer out of the best program in the country where you will get developed into an MLB draft pick, like that's on you. Like, yeah, you're welcome to make that decision. But at the same time, I think the best option right now is throw as many guys as you can on Sundays and just do not ever let the other lineup get comfortable.
Yeah.
That's typically opposite for me. I'm much more of I think we both are seeing, Doyle go out and shove for what seems like he could probably do an entire game. Phillips is showing, he can command for longer this year. Sneed's that do everything guy. But as much as I love that role of, watching somebody just go out and make it their game, it's just equally as nasty from a hitter's perspective and me being a catcher, knowing of all the different looks different pitchers can give you. Like, I got to be honest, I'm kind of loving the by committee approach on Sundays right now.
Yeah, another guy that haven't talked a ton about, and that's because one, he kind of just got back from injury, but a guy that's been super impressive since he's been out there is Dylan Loy.
Yep.
Really like what he brings. So far, he's pitched 4 2/3 innings, given up 1 hit. He has 8 strikeouts, and he's got a combined batting average of .067 right now. So, I mean, he's just another kind of guy in there. Like he could start if you needed him to, but also kind of like him in that like long reliever role, kind of that bridge guy to get to your closer. Now I think he's a really good option for Tennessee. Hasn't pitched a ton yet, but I feel like again he's kind of a guy last year pitched in that SEC championship game was really good.
Yeah.
Pitched in Omaha, so I mean that's a ton of experience that he has just in that one season. And yeah, I think they're going to lean on him a ton in that bullpen as well. If he doesn't start on Sunday at some point.
Yeah. I don't know what they'll do about, who's officially the starter. I mean, they may decide to settle on an older guy, or it may be, hey, it's Loy today, and he gets. To me, right now, a guy would have to be absolutely shoving to see the lineup twice in a row, just because of that nastiness factor of never letting the other lineup get any kind of momentum, get any kind of anything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the same time, everybody can have a short leash too. So if you let Loy go and when he's about to see everybody for a second or third time, you're like, all right, let's get him out. If you do put somebody in there and they don't have it that day, quickly you can get them out. You've got enough arms to if you put somebody in for a couple batters and it's clear they don't have it, you can get them out and it's not going to hurt you that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And another guy that I know we kind of got an update from Tony about AJ Russell, and that's kind of I guess we're not going to see him much in March, I guess. He said he was recalibrating his arm and getting back in the swing of things, but he had no setbacks, which I guess that's good news. But at the same time, I would like to see him out there some and getting stretched out. But I'm sure they know what they're doing. They're going to be cautious with him. But he's just kind of another guy that maybe when you get to late May into June, like he's kind of a guy you have in your back pocket to throw out there and beat some teams with.
Yeah, I mean, imagine. I mean, that's the only guy that, and by that point, I wonder if that would be the smartest move. He's the guy, you would wonder about settling into the Sunday role, but by the time he's back, that kind of
It's
I would
probably already
try it
worked
out.
itself out.
Right, I would try it out. If you don't have a clear answer, again, I think the clear answers right now is by committee approach. That's kind
Mhm.
of a cop out because it's not really an answer, but it's my answer. I think that's the best right now. But I mean, just imagine like you have the Phillips Snead combo to throw out on Saturdays. Imagine like I mean, I would say Liam Doyle, AJ Russell combo on Friday, but I mean, I don't know that
Yeah,
Doyle's ever going to get in any trouble this year, so I don't know how much run AJ would get. I mean, that's
sure.
just that four-headed monster to start a weekend is my god, that's filthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they play out Sunday. That's one thing. It's kind of like the last part of your lineup. Like that's the one thing that just isn't solidified yet, but they have a ton of options to get it solidified. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just interested to see kind of how it works out. Tennessee does get into SEC play. They play West Georgia. They also play Florida coming to town next week, which is going to be a big series. They're ranked in that top five. They're 15-2 on the year. They lost a Sunday game to Miami, and I think they lost a midweek to UCF. But swept Harvard. It's kind of like the same thing Tennessee did. They swept Harvard all three games. Run to every single one. Tennessee basically did the same thing against St. Bonaventure. I know they played the whole game on Friday, but they have back-to-back undefeated teams. The last two undefeated teams in college baseball are Florida State and Tennessee. They have Florida State on Tuesday, and then they obviously start that series with Tennessee this weekend. So, we'll see what happens between that Tennessee Florida or Florida State game. But if Florida wins that, Tennessee could be the last remaining undefeated team as they get to 16-0. Hopefully 17-0 by the time that game probably wraps up against West Georgia, and best start in program history, which I feel like we say that every single year.
Yeah, it's the best start until the next season rolls around.
Yeah. Let's get into MVP and kind of wrap this up real quick. I'll let you go. I think it's your turn to go first.
Man, at this point, you're tempted to just say the whole team. I just because I see the potential of what he can be, and I feel like until this weekend, he had kind of been one of the quieter freshmen that just we had talked about on this show, not due to his production. I'll go Marin just because
Yeah.
it's just another piece, and I feel like this is what I say about my MVP every week. Besides Doyle, it's because all mine have been young guys. I think it's another piece that gives the coach a headache, and he's got a very clear path right now. It's not Levi Clark at DH. Like he's gonna have to keep his play up to keep his spot because of all the options we've listed. But I mean, there's a real role right now for Marin to be your third baseman every day because we thought it was he was probably going to be pretty impacted by Osuna because it's when he takes over first base, Fisher goes to third and he has a roadblock there because I mean it's Fisher,
Yeah.
so he's really benefiting right now from the Osuna situation, and he's got as clear a path to anybody as really locking down the third base spot. And if he locks it down now, I mean, there's your third baseman for the next 3 years. So he's put on a show right now, he's not perfect by any means, but you see the flashes, and then you see what he's done this weekend, and if he can do that halfway consistently, like you're looking at, I would say your third baseman, but at least one of your infielders there for the next 3 years. So I'll go with Marin.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him. He was 4 for 8, I think 4 RBIs on the weekend. He also benefited obviously from the Osuna thing, but Andrew Fisher had a little injury going on
Yeah,
in the
good point.
preseason. So that's why they moved him over to first base in the first place.
Yep.
Otherwise, he probably would be at third, and Manny Marin's probably the odd man out there. But yeah, they moved him over to first, and Manny Marin made the most of his opportunity, and they're like, oh, this is kind of working. Let's keep it and see what happens. And it's he's really made the most of his opportunities. So obviously, like that was a big weekend for him to really get the bat going. Obviously, he made some plays in the field, so I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Manny Marin. And like you said, just another young guy who, hopefully you can get him for 3 years. I know that. I think he is a draft eligible sophomore. Levi Clark is not. Jay Abernathy is not, but I think Manny Marin and Chris Newstrom are. So,
It,
if he's gone after his sophomore year, he had a great 2 years, and
oh yeah.
Tennessee was really good and really benefited from it. So, however that
Last
works out.
last thing I'll say on it, it's kind of similar to the Curly situation. I mean, they're not built the same. They're different builds.
Maybe next year Manny Marin just looks like a SEC linebacker. Who knows?
Just looking at them, if you put them in front of me and said which one's the third baseman, which one's the shortstop, I'd lose every single time on that guess,
100%,
because
100%.
that's just not conventional. But it was like with Curly, like there's a lot of who's going to step up and take the spot, and Curly won the spot just by when he got his shots, he never faltered. Like
Mhm.
he just produced every time he was out there. I don't know that, not to say Curly was never like your last option. Like I mean, he was obviously one of the top contenders for that spot. It's kind of the same thing with Marin, though, even less to a degree, because he was a guy, like we said, that a couple different times there was going to be a roadblock to getting on the field, and he's just said, "Hey, I don't care. Put me in, and I'll produce, and you're going to have to take me out of the lineup." So
Sure.
it's very similar to the guy he's standing next to, and I feel like he also is just doing that. He's on the same path of, I'm just going to keep producing, and you'll be the idiot if you pull me out of the lineup. So I love it.
Yeah, I love the strategy of Tennessee, like in recruiting, is like, let's just get a bunch of the top guys and let them figure it out. Like we'll
Yep.
give them ton of opportunities in the preseason and fall, and then once we get into the spring and winter, like non-conference play, like we'll just play them a ton, and we'll get our best 9 at some point, and our best 9 is going to be better than everybody else's because we have so much talent on this roster.
Yep.
Love that strategy. My MVP is going to be, I'm going to go with Dalton Bargo. I thought he was, again, I thought he was not done, but I thought his spot was gone. And I mean, he proved me wrong. I'm sure he proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, he was like over in, I don't think he was much of a factor in Houston. Didn't really have a great couple weekends against Hofstra, and God, who was the other team we played? Played
Hofstra. You talking about in Houston?
No, who was the team? Who did we play before Hofstra?
Oh, Jesus.
I can't believe
Good
I
question.
forgot that.
It was a run rule.
Sanford. We played Sanford after.
Yeah, that's
Hofstra.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about their academic prowess. Yeah, that I that on the show. They were number one.
Yeah. There you go.
Harvard
but yeah, he was 4 for 8, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs. Just a really solid performance from Bargo there, and yeah, I mean he just continues to. Tennessee like always has some of these guys that just like Cal Stark last year. It was Cannon Peoples, and then Cal Stark was just consistent and just just par for the course. And hey, I'm gonna make the most of my opportunities. I'm gonna learn how to be a great catcher, a great teammate, and then when I get my opportunities in the box, like I'm gonna make the most of it. And that's what Dalton Bargo has done up to this point. I mean, he could have cried and sat on the bench and was upset that these freshmen have kind of like taken his spot. But no, it looks like he's been working and waited for his opportunity. And he made the most of it this weekend. So excited to see him build on that, and hopefully he's ready for SEC play to hit some more tanks, because he hit a couple this weekend that were gone in every park, no matter what LSU fans say. So
a couple of those guys, you have them dead and buried, and it's the Undertaker meme. They just reach up out of the dirt. Just, don't forget about me as soon as you're ready, because I was guilty of it too with Bargo. I mean, that was my Levi Clark argument, was play the young guy. You know what you've got in Bargo, and it appears he shut me up because I did not know Bargo. I was not familiar with your game meme. That's what he's showing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Bargo's also shutting up this podcast. We've gone a little bit long, but yeah, SEC plays coming up. We're super excited about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Like, subscribe on more important issues and everything like that. We'll be here every Monday at 7:00, unless we forget to post it at 7. Then it'll be a little bit later than that. But we'll get it to you as soon as possible. Thank y'all again for listening, and go Vols.